Hey everybody, this video is put together for the DMs more than the players because we're going to be talking about NPCs, which if you don't know what that is, it's a non-player character, which falls under a huge umbrella of basically any character that has to be played by the DM and whose main objective is to further the story in one way or another, and not whatever the hell TikTok thinks NPCs are. Let's just put that over there and pretend it doesn't exist. Seriously, don't look that up. Let's talk about NPCs. There are really only three types of NPCs. The guide, the character that has information for the party, the adversaries, which have bad information for the party, and the bystanders, who are just the locals who don't really want to get involved, but might have information based on roles or compensation. The problem arises when the DM starts treating one of these like another. If everyone in your town of bystanders starts treating your party like adversaries, players are going to start thinking, hey, this guy's an asshole, he must be hiding something. And that's when the barbarian starts breaking people's fingers. Let's talk about each type. The guide, who is a plant or a stand-in for the DM, drives the narrative. This is the DM's voice to the players without straight up saying, go into the dungeon and slay the dragon. Sometimes the party needs that. This person wants to do nothing more than to help the party succeed. They don't always have to be super excited about it, but the success of the party should be aligned with their goals. Someone can be hesitant to help the heroes overthrow a local tyrant for fear of repercussions should the heroes fail, but with whatever aid they are willing to give, they should be very clear in what they are going to do and competent in that execution. If the party loses trust in the characters through bad roles or actions, or just kind of being cagey, then your plan has failed and the players will no longer trust anything they say. Not good for a DM's mouthpiece. Then we have the adversary. This character usually is someone that either doesn't know the whole story about what's going on or is just kind of misinformed, or maybe a little of both. Usually doesn't like the party and is either uninterested in helping them or actively want them to fail. The town drunk, an old farmer that's sick of adventures sleeping in the pumpkin patch, a shopkeeper who now knows that the pearls the rogue sold them is actually just painted rocks. These characters are a lot of fun to play as a DM and there's usually a lot of them in the campaign. They can know critical information, but usually only bits and pieces delivered through monologues or skillful roles or conversation. The players should distrust any information gained from these type of characters. And finally, the locals. These people are usually unnamed by the DM and are more often than not never really used more than once. Bartenders, town guards, random people in the streets watching your party of eccentric adventurers destroy their city. These are where a lot of issues come up for new DMs, because the townfolk generally shouldn't have key information. I think they're good at leading characters towards objectives, or even better towards guide characters. Maybe overhearing whispers in a local tavern, or vague conversations happening in a busy street, or answers to a well-worded question by one of the players. These NPCs should have no stake in the success of the players, and this is where things get really tricky. These NPCs should be normal people. Some of them should be interested in talking with your players, and others should be busy about going on with their lives and not really having anything useful to say. If a random NPC has way too much information, they can seem like a plant, and now players might want to latch onto them in a way that the DM was not expecting. Or if they're way too aggressive and angry towards the players, they might feel like an adversary, and the party might think they're hiding information from them or purposefully misleading them, also leading to unwanted attention. In my experience, most people just want to continue living their lives, but are also willing to spare a very small moment of time if it's just to talk and not directly get involved. The difference between hello, welcome, and who the fuck are you can change the entire dynamic of how the party sees a character. All of your characters need to feel like real people at the end of the day. The more strange and eccentric your NPCs feel, the more the party will think that they are important. At the end of the day, being a DM is about adaptation and storytelling. Sometimes your plans just won't jive well with the party, and you'll have to find a new in. Sometimes your red herrings will hit a little too hard and send the party in a direction that you just didn't expect. These things are normal. The best advice I can give is to go into every NPC encounter with these three types in mind. Does this person have useful information that the players need? Then they are the plant or the guide. Let them be confident in their information. Don't needlessly complicate or confuse the players. Let them be competent in their ability to aid the players. If the team is hiring a rogue to guide them through a local guild that they are a part of, don't make them roll. Just do the things you hired them to do. That's their job. And be consistent. If the players hire said rogue for being able to get them into said guild, if they show up and they aren't actually part of the guild, the players will never trust anything they say ever again, because they're acting like the adversary. Now that they've been labeled as such, the adversaries aren't trustworthy. Either they aren't confident in their information, maybe they've heard conflicting stories and aren't sure which one's real, confusing the players. Maybe they're lying to get some gold out of the players, or because someone else wanted them to. These NPCs will either not help the party without coercion, or willingly help them with the intent of making them fail. I think some of the biggest murder hobo moments come around because DMs inadvertently put critical information in a character and accidentally treat them like an adversary. The same can be said about normal NPCs. The NPCs don't have direct knowledge, don't need to be roleplayed at the same extent. Don't bring attention to every dock worker or shopkeeper. It only confuses the players to think that this person is more important in the story than the DM really wants. Sometimes it's better just to not give them a voice at all. If your players are asking about a local crime lord and they have a great persuasion check, instead of trying to come up with a character and a voice for this shopkeeper on the spot, use the DM's own voice and say, he seems rather frightened to talk about it. But in hushed tones, he says that he sees him hanging around one of the local bars. But that's all he can really say about that. And then give your players an out-of-game confirmation of success or failure. Saying something like, he doesn't seem to know anything else helpful, will go a long way into correctly aligning them as an unnamed NPC versus, I don't know nothing. Because the players might infer that he's hiding something or purposefully getting in their way, and thus the murder hoboing begins. Treat all your NPCs like people. You don't have to write down huge backstories for them. Just act like they have their own to do and keep that in mind as they're talking to the players. If random weirdos carrying magical weapons start walking around and poking their nose in your business, you're probably not going to give them a time of day. I'm sorry, I really have to get back to work now. People love the trope of the plant becoming the adversary and always having that twist at the end that makes the friendly character always seem that much more suspicious, which is still a fine way of telling a story. But if they are supposed to be the plant in that moment, you have to treat them as such. They have to be confident in their information that they're giving to the party. They have to be confident in what they're promising to help the party with, and they have to actually help the party, because otherwise no one will trust them until you get to the point when they need to become the adversary. And after that point, it's very hard to make them be trusted again by the players. And to avoid this for regular NPCs, most NPCs are going to be more curious about, why is this weird person talking to me, instead of being adversarial, instead of being like, no, I don't want to talk, I don't have any information. Just be like, wait, who are you guys? What are you doing here? Yeah, I don't know anything about that, sorry. I really need to get back to work or I'm going to get fired. Worst case scenario, they just start screaming for the cops. There's some tiefling Karen here that just won't leave my coffee shop. Yep, 2 different colored eyes. His weapon is a giant fork. Multiple complaints, you say. Interesting. Yeah, well, they're still here. Okay. Yeah, I'll see you in 5 minutes. Bye. The police are on their way. Thanks for watching, everybody. Remember to keep your dice on the table.